All right, let's take a look at where we left off last time. We have our start game, I click on it, and they load a level. What I'd like to do in this video is get it so that when I click on one of these characters, it loads in the game. Now, any sort of game management stuff, generally we do this inside of a game manager. So I'm going to go ahead and right click in here, and I'm not going to put this under the managers because it's going to persist across many levels. And so what I might do is actually, because this menu manager here is really just going to access this level here. Actually, I'll drag it outside of here. And inside of this manager's object here, this is what's going to persist or go between different levels. So my game manager is really managing the entire game. So let's take a look at how that kind of works. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to create an empty object here, and I'm going to change the word object to manager. Okay. Now let's create the game manager script. I'm just going to name mine, let's see, for scripts here, game manager, CSS underscore CSS. And you can see here that I already did not use that naming convention on this character button. And I can go back and rename that later, but for now, just leave it alone. But yeah, let me go ahead and first let me drag this game manager script onto there. And it looks like I need to recompile. So see how it's saying reload domain. I need it to reload first before it'll actually recognize it. So let's try that again. There we go. Now it loads it. Now, like I said about persisting, or I want it to last, there's really just one line of code. It says, it goes, do not destroy on load. It's a method. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that. And I'm going to attach it to this manager script. So inside of the scripts here, I'm just going to create another C# script, and I'm going to call it do not destroy. And for me, you could finish it off and write do not destroy on load. But for me right now, that's enough for me to know when I drag it on here that this script is going to be used for that. All right, so let's go ahead and open up that script. All right, so here's my do not destroy on load script. Now, if I go to my manager here in the inspector, we have it attached here. But before I enter the line of code, I just wanted to show you something, how this works. So I'm going to press play. I'm going to click start, and I'm going to select Sally, for instance. Notice we already have something that says don't destroy on load. This is like its own little scene file. And underneath there is no game manager file. But if I go in here and I say, on start, don't destroy on load, I use this method, this.game object. Watch what happens when I press play now and I go into the game and I select any one of these characters. Now, underneath that don't destroy on load, we have our debug updater, but we also have that manager and then the child that's underneath it, which is this game manager here. And so just because that script is at the highest level here, the do not destroy, it also takes all of the children with it. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to go ahead and open up that game manager script here. All right, so the first thing I want to do with my game manager is I'm going to be using a design pattern that's called a singleton pattern. Now, there's some dispute about when to use it, when not to use it. For now, what I do is I use it whenever I need to access or give access to a script from other scripts. So this word instance is important here. And what it does is anytime somebody wants to reference this script or they use the game manager underscore CSS name and then they want to reference something, they can always use this instance here because it's public and static to access anything in there. So for example, something else we're going to want to add in here is our the selected character. So inside of our game manager, we want to manage, well, which character was selected. And that's what this bit of code here does. So we have a game object and it's really going to store, and I made it public so you can see which character it ends up selecting. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to say, you know what, let's change this to an awake. So once the script wakes up, instead of when it runs before anything else, we're going to check if instance, which is this, I'm going to tab twice, is empty or equal to, oops, what happened here? Let's copy this again. I want to copy that. if instance is equal to null. That means we haven't received anything from our level. And remember, instance is just like, what's it called? We want to get access to this script. So whatever's inside this script. So if instance equals null, that means it doesn't have access to anything. We're going to assign it to this script. Something else that I realized is I'm so used to just writing game manager. The data type of this is the same as this script. So game manager underscore CSS, and this is the same type. And by having this variable of the same type, it gives us access to everything in here. And all we're doing is we're checking if for whatever reason, instance doesn't have anything assigned to it, we want to assign it to this individual script. And that's going to help us to really, just kind of lock this down. We also want to check like if it isn't equal to this script, like for whatever reason, say it's assigned something else, we want to destroy that game object. And what this is doing is that's stopping us from having multiple game managers in our scene. So all we do for that is we type else, and I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm just going to start typing destroy, and then game object. So it's a pretty simple script so far. So that's all this does. Now I want to talk a little bit about getters and setters. Let's do this .game object so it knows it's this object. Why is it? Let's see. Oh, you know what? I feel silly. It's a capital O. So this is what this does to signify that, like, okay, here's our game object, and what we're doing is we're just setting that instance. So notice that all we're doing here is we're storing those values, but we haven't actually set it up to do that. So like when we click on a character, it sets this game object to the selected area so we could use it later. So what we're going to do is, let me go ahead and open up, let's see, we have a character button script here. Maybe I can just drag that in here. Yeah, so here's our character button. Now, remember, we want to sort of give this its own single responsibility, right? Like we want it to control everything that sort of happens with a click. So if I click on this, I want it to go to my game manager, and I want it to store inside of public static game manager, or I'm sorry, under the selected character. When I click, I want to let my game manager know that I'm storing that selected character. So we're going to be jumping between scripts again. And this happens a lot through coding. And just take solace in knowing that, like, it's kind of the same every single time when you want to access a script, right? So we're going to be using this instance here. So I'm going to grab this game manager CSS, which is the name of our script. And remember, on character select, when we left click on the button, it loads level 1. Well, before it loads level 1, I want it to store my character. So I'm going to do dot. And remember, we have instance here. Instance is of the same type, this variable, as the script. So it's going to give me access. And I'm going to use instance, and I'm going to hit dot, and it's going to give me access to selected character. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to hit dot, and I'm going to start typing selected character. And that's going to be equal to a game object. So I'm going to make a public game object here. Sorry about the typing. I know it can get annoying, but I'm always sort of doing my best to record these videos when I have time in between teaching meetings and all this good stuff. But anyway, so character prefab. And over the summer, I plan on going back and recording a lot of this. Actually, a second track to go along with this where you learn how to create character art. So it's like a 2-track system inside these lessons. But anyway, so game manager underscore CSS, that's the script. We're grabbing that instance, and then all we're doing here is now we're storing that character prefab inside of selected character inside of here, which is pretty awesome. Like, even if you don't look at any of this, which is really just guaranteeing that we have an instance of it in our scene, this manager really only has 2 variables in it. One that's letting you access this script, and the game manager, which is currently storing whatever the selected character is. And let's go ahead and see that in action. So if let's see, we should now, if I press play and I click start game, okay. So these characters, like here's the Sally button, right? If I scroll down, where's my script? Oh, okay, so it says character prefab. This is the character button script. It says none, right? So if I click Sally and, well, she's not actually persisting across the level. let's see. We should be seeing Sally here. Let's see. Here's our game manager. We clicked Sally. And here's our character button. Oh, you know what the issue is? We need to, here, I'll show you. So on our character button, we need to, on each one of these characters, we need to let it know which is the character prefab. So I have to drag Sally here. I can just get the character's name, but I'm kind of trying to make this easier. So here's the character prefab Theo, and here's TJ. So what's happening here is when I click this character prefab, which character do I want to load into my game manager? And it's really, actually none of these, I'm sorry. Inside this prefabs folder, these are our actual characters. Like this is TJ, if you guys remember him. I'm gonna have to focus this little guy. So sorry, back to our button. So here's TJ. This is the prefab I wanna load in. So here's our TJ prefab. So this is the character I wanna load in the game. And then here's Theo. I wanna grab Theo, I wanna drop him in there. And then my Sally button, I wanna grab my Sally and put him in here. So now those are all the prefabs that I wanna load. And when I click this, it should load it into our game manager. This is the selected character slot in our game manager. I hope that wasn't confusing. So let's hit play. Here's our game manager selected button. So let's say I want to load in Sally. I'm going to click Sally. And now you can see inside of our game manager, Sally persisted into our game manager here. And we haven't done anything yet. We haven't spawned it yet. We're going to have to create a level manager. And that level manager is going to take the selected character and it's going to handle loading characters in the game. So that's it for my game manager tutorial. It's really simple. It's just these two. Go back and watch it again. Take notes. Make sure to take notes as I'm going through this because jumping between scripts and stuff can sometimes be confusing. And but the code isn't that difficult. It's just that sometimes gets it kind of mucks it up for students, is this going between scripts and stuff. And that's why you should heavily comment things and handwrite and take notes.